Mayor.
I move to the annual budget communications and engagement plan. Somewhere or other, who's representing that? Kenneth.
Kia ora koutou. Morena, Mr. Mayor and councillors. So we presented at the workshop last week in terms of the approach for the communication engagement plan and how we'll go about ensuring that we're inclusive of all Aucklanders. Given the consultation period begins on the 20th of February and runs through for 4 weeks until the 28th of March, this is an opportunity obviously for us to ensure that we hear from Aucklanders on the issues in the consultation document and anything else they'd like to raise, which is likely, as you can all assume, will be in relation to the emergency situation we're in now. In addition, we're looking to drive awareness of the consultation through prominent mentions in communications. We're in phase 2 now, or ending phase 1 of raising awareness and going into phase 2 at the end of this month in terms of making sure people know where they can give it, how they can give their feedback through various channels, digital or online, face-to-face at hui or have your say events, and through written communications, as well as telephone for those who prefer that. We're obviously designed our approach to ensure that we can flex or pivot as a consequence of the emergency situation we're in. And so we will monitor the situation and see whether we can do things, if we need to do things differently. And we also have the independent survey that's been proposed to ensure that we can get a representative sample of Aucklanders participating in the process who can give us complete answers to all the questions that are being asked in the survey, which is still to be finalised. The other point being that the consultation feedback form is part of a democratic process which allows for Aucklanders to just answer the questions that they want to answer, not necessarily all of them, which is their right. But we obviously encourage to ask as many questions as they can so that we have a fuller picture of their views on the issues. I have with me on the call Victoria Walker from the Communications Department, GM, and representatives from Ngāti Matarai, Marama and Bernadette can also answer questions about the Māori engagement approach that's been designed for this consultation process. We're open to questions should you have any, Mr. Mayor or councillors. Thank you.
Councillor Bartley has a question.
Councillor Bartley.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, everyone. I know it's probably too late in the piece to ask this, but because I want to make sure that our communities get heard on this, because it is vital that they are, considering what's being proposed to be cut is going to affect our vulnerable communities the most. So how do we ensure that they are heard seriously? And, you know, I don't want them to turn up to a have your say. It gets noted on a big jotter pad and then gets fed back somewhere in a report that doesn't really hit us. So what about going back to hearings? Because I know some people say hearings are not friendly for community, but that is a way that they are actually given the time, put in front of all governing body and heard by all of us, as opposed to a forum in the public, which we may turn up, we may not, and staff take their notes and forward it to us.
Thank you for the question. I know I've got Tamsin and others on the line. Hearings, Councillor Bartley, obviously one way that we can provide a process to hear from our communities and take into account their feedback. We're confident that the ways that we've got available in the timeframe that we have and the fact that we're willing to flex to see what else might be needed or what we might need to change as a result of, there might be difficulty for people to access the events and activities that we've got planned. We think that will be sufficient, but we'll certainly consider what you're saying. Should we need to change tact over the 4-week period so that we can, as I said earlier, flex where necessary. But there are multiple different avenues and channels that have been provided. Yes, our Have Your Say events, we are working specifically with targeted groups to ensure that they can be present. But if we get an indication that we will need to look at other ways of doing things, we're going to be open to that as well. But I do appreciate the question asked, and we will obviously continue to think about how we can do things differently in light of the situation. Thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
Any further questions? Otherwise, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder.
Is there a way that I can move an amendment to require hearings as part of this process?
She can. Yes,
I would be happy to second Councillor Bartley's amendment if she's putting that up. It's Councillor Newman.
Okay, so now you deal with the amendment, and Councillor Bartley has moved to include hearings as part of this process, and it's been seconded by Councillor Newman.
Okay.
You can take discussion on that now.
So that's hearings as well as what we're normally doing with our Have Your Says.
Yes, include hearings.
Yeah.
Any discussion on that? Councillor Hills?
I won't be supporting this in my experience, and the evidence we've seen is that hearings generally favour certain demographics who can get to the town hall in the middle of the city, and also potentially take up several weeks if we were to accept everyone. For us sitting in the town hall, where I'd prefer to be, and I'm sure many others would prefer to be in the community, talking to communities as opposed to be hearing. So I think it's good to have a mix and maybe a conversation for next time, but I think we don't know the parameters of what those hearings would entail, how much time it would take, or even if there was, I just think to make the decision right now, we wouldn't actually know what we could do. And I assume the budget we've set for the consultation would have to take away from outreach to communities, because there'd be a lot more budget spent on town hall meetings in the
Be careful what you wish for, in other words. Councillor Henderson?
Yeah, thanks. Briefly, I won't be supporting this either, respectfully. I do understand that, you know, there is an argument we need to provide as many channels as we can to try and get to as many people as we can. But I think we should be sort of taking some of the less traditional ways to do that and actually amplifying voices that don't get the sort of same level of access to councillors in the council process than maybe some of the more organised groups do. Since this has all come out through the summer, I've been completely mobbed, I guess, from people that have contacted me with their views on the budget. Some of which are, you know, quite passionate, as we West Aucklanders always are, and a lot of people that haven't engaged in this kind of process before and have felt compelled to do so. So if we go down the path of kind of the more traditional route of hearings and those kinds of things, that doesn't empower them, and so for that reason, I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Simpson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, my comment is around the fact that I'm really sad this wasn't brought up in the workshop, so we could actually have a look at the realities and the practicalities of us, one, fitting this up and doing it properly. Councillor Bartley, I'm understanding what you're saying, and I think that the hearings process potentially could happen in sub-regionally, like in the local board areas as part of the local Have Your Say. The reason I am loath to go for the hearings in at the town hall is you are assuming everybody from the very top of Rodney and the very bottom from where Andy comes from are able and should travel all the way to the town hall. And frankly, I just don't think that's practicable. But I am keen, and it's like most of you, I would think, to let people have their say in person to 1, 2 or 3, more than just one councillor. We do have online, and I think the online, everyone hopefully can access that at a suitable time, so they could have that opportunity. But look, I I don't want to be undemocratic. I absolutely believe everyone should have their say, but I am worried about the practical implications. Having chaired hearings myself, as some of you know, we have been in the town hall where people have cancelled at the last minute. We've had huge gaps. We can't bring people forward. It's just based on the size of this region, it's very difficult to practically deliver. I think we should take the concept of the hearings and work it better through local board area by local board area. So to that end, I cannot support the hearings based on the fact that traditionally we have done them in the town hall. Thank you.
Through the chair, if I could just add, the Have Your Say events are styled to be hearing style, so people and groups at the events can provide their views, and we'll continue to encourage that across the local boards for the events that they have planned. As Councillor Simpson also touched on, the resourcing required to do that, given the size of our region and the focus that we've got within the organisation on the current emergency and the community groups that we're looking to support this, we think that I think personally that would make it very difficult to stand it up at the scale that is being proposed, and given all the other implications I think that we talked about in terms of elected member availability. However, our commitment is to ensure that the Have Your Say events are hearing style, and to ensure that we get a lot of people along to those so that we hear their views through that process.
Thank you. That makes my democratic comment feel much more sound. I'm really pleased with that. Thank you so much.
Councillor Lee, please.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and colleagues. I have to support strongly Councillor Bartley's amendment. Now, of all times, is the time for us to open the doors and to listen to the people of Auckland who we are meant to represent. And now is a time also to take seriously our sworn obligations under the Local Government Act. And I refer members to have a read of section 76, decision making, 78, community views in relationship to decisions, and section 82, principles of consultation. All too often the council in recent years has ignored these obligations and put its own convenience, the convenience of elected members and the convenience of management ahead of the requirements of the Act and ahead of showing respect to the views of the people of Auckland. If the size of the region, which is incidentally the smallest region in the country, was a consideration, one would have fear for the hallowed Parliamentary Institute of Select Committee hearings. Regardless, select committee hearings go on, regardless of that they're New Zealand wide. So I think these are excuses. I think if we look in the mirror, the council is putting its own convenience ahead of its requirements under the Local Government Act, and certainly putting its own convenience ahead of opening the doors and having genuine consultation as defined by law with the people of Auckland in this most critical of all budgets. Thank you.
Councillor Watson, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been my experience in previous budgets and long-term plan processes that there have been hearings for certain groups that has occurred. I think I recall people like the Property Council and whatnot having their own segment to come in. I may be mistaken in that, but that certainly has happened in the past. I'm really trying to decipher now what Kenneth has said in respect of the hearings type format that will be available at the local level. I too, like Councillor Lee and some of the other members have spoke, I support the notion of hearings. I know if I was wanting to present to the council myself, I'd rather be speaking to the assembled group as opposed to perhaps having little stick tapes or filling in a questionnaire. I'd want to have my 5 minutes or whatever it might amount to. So I strongly support that principle, that formal principle, and I think a lot of people in the community do as well. And I don't just mean traditional people who have presented in the past. I think there's a lot to be said for speaking directly, as indeed happens with select committees. I mean, if we were to extend that analogy, then as Councillor Lee said, that would be too difficult, and all manner of people would be cut out. So that's contradictory, really. If it's good enough for Parliament, especially at this time in our council's history and the challenge that are facing us, it should be good enough for the Auckland Council. So I guess, Mr. Mayor, it seems to me there's two ways to go here, certainly for the proponents of this. Is one that we try to hastily convene something that might cater for this amendment at the town hall in the city, or that there's a bit more detail given as to Kenneth's suggestion that might be more robustly catered for at the local level than has been the case in the past. So it is a little hard to kind of think on the feet at the moment as to how that might pan out. But I will be supporting the amendment because I support the principle of budgets and long-term plans being open to hearings with members of the public. Thank you.
Councillor Dalton, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. And yes, I support Councillor Bartley, and I support what Councillor Lee said as well. I think we have moved a long way away from listening to our people. Now, I understand the dilemma here and that it's going to be very, very difficult to try and stand something up for this consultation, and perhaps Councillor Bartley might consider that it becomes part of an LTP discussion, that more investment goes into how we hear from our communities, and that leads to greater democracy. I mean, sometimes these hearings can be very pleasant and sometimes very unpleasant. It comes with the job. It's our job to listen to people. And if that means our job is not sitting in the town hall, but going out to our local board areas to listen, then that is what we do. That's such a big part of what we are elected to do, is to listen to the people. The way this happens doesn't work for everybody. We have multiple other channels. I understand that, but since the beginning of the Super City, when we were holding hearings, the value was immense, and that meant that our people from all over Auckland felt like they were being heard. Some people like to sit in front of the governing body and talk to the governing body. Some prefer not to. Some will want to go online. Have your says have been great, but they're not always, when it's not the main event. One of our have your says is our bilingual hikoi. Our people are coming to hikoi. I don't think they're going to spend a lot of time listening to the annual plan consultation. That's from my experience anyway. So deliberative democracy is where we need to get to. We need to get to citizens' assemblies. It probably needs to be part of the LTP discussion. But thank you, Councillor Bartley, for bringing it forward. I do support the hearings process. Thank you.
Councillor Newman, please.
I was really quite taken back when an officer indicated that what was proposed wasn't practicable, given that what has been proposed hasn't been fully declared. I mean, my view as a seconder is that, The assumption here is that it will be at the town hall. Hearings can be a combination of in-person and online, in my view, and it doesn't necessarily have to be at the town hall. The region is large and regional councillors should travel to different parts of it. And I think that being an elected member means that you have to be willing to sit through a hearing where people tell you things that you don't agree with. I was never keen on doing away with hearings when officers proposed it during the era of Stephen Town. My view has always been this is in addition to, not instead of. And that's been a point of my approach to consultation. Unfortunately, we've tried several times previously to bring hearings back. It hasn't worked because the support hasn't been there. But I think that the idea that this is all just going to be too difficult and it only appeals to a very narrow group of Aucklanders who want to come to the town hall and that they can have access to it. Well, that's one group of Aucklanders who may feel that that's an important means for them to engage, and we should accommodate them. It does not mean that we exclude Have Your Say. It does not mean that we exclude the other things that we want to do. This is an important budget that will affect people. So thank you, Councillor Bartley, for raising this. I think that it would be good for us to have a vote and to include hearings. Not every Aucklander is going to want to appear in person, but for those that wish to, they should be heard in that way. They are all key stakeholders, not just Property Council.
Councillor Baker, please.
Thank you, Worship. I'm going to be voting against it. I agree with what the Deputy Mayor has said. And the reason I'm voting against it is because this should have been raised before today, and to expect staff now to have to charge around and try and organise a hearing. Having sat in front of the governing body over a long period of time, I don't think I've ever had a room full of people, and often there was less than 50% of the councillors sitting around the table listening to local boards. And certainly the people from Franklin were very, very frustrated when they made the effort to come into the city. I support trying to do something hearings-wise locally or sub-regionally. I just don't believe that today is the time we should be saying get stuck into it, staff. As you can see, Ken is sitting there in his high vis and has been busy working in the community. So I've always been a fan of hearings. I just don't believe that today is the last minute rush that we should be supporting it.
Councillor Sayers, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. It's just probably more procedural question. I assume this isn't an addition, so it is an amendment. So that'll be going to the vote, Chair, and then incorporated into the substantial to be voted on in full. I'm correct on that process?
Yes, you are, Councillor Sayers.
Thank you. And I guess if everyone wants to call for division on it, they can, but that's up to individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foley.
Kia ora, thank you, Your Worship. Look, my comments are very similar to Councillor Baker, where I think that this is probably a conversation that we need to have going forward and looking at how we can incorporate hearings at a local, sub-regional, online as well, to allow as many people as possible to attend hearings, perhaps for the next round of consultation. But I don't think, I wouldn't want to put that pressure on our staff now. I mean, I know that Councillor Bartley is out there on the ground, as many of us have been, but our staff are also, they've been manning our CD centre 24/7. So I wouldn't want to put that pressure on our staff now. But I'm not opposed to having this conversation and looking at planning something properly for the next round and seeing how we can improve on that hearings process. I would not want to go back to the old hearings process where everyone was expected to come into the town hall, because certainly that did exclude people from my ward, from most of South Auckland, and from areas like Franklin and some of the islands where it's just so difficult. Over time, we have developed and changed and adapted the process, the consultation process out in Manukau. And what we have now works really well. The Have Your Say events where people can sit around in small tables and have those discussions. And we always have councillors present and local board members and working in that shared governance space. The councillors and the local board members sit with the public and they hear the public, and their role in that Have Your Say event is to sit and hear what people have to say, and our officers record what's being said, and that all feeds into the process. So I will vote against it for that reason, but I'm open to considering how we might incorporate hearings to work alongside what we're already doing, and in a different form to what it previously was, so that it would be more inclusive and allow more of the voices from across all of Tāmaki Makaurau to be heard. Kia ora. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Foley. Councillor Turner, please.
Thank you. I've listened to both sides. Everybody has really good points. I absolutely will be going to the Henderson Massey Local Board office and the Waitaki Rangers Local Board office and holding a hearing if I'm allowed access in that manner. If not, I'll have to do it privately, but that's what I'm happy to go and meet everyone halfway. I think if that could be stitched in somehow, that would be good. I support a hearings mechanism. It doesn't have to be in the town hall. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Walker, please.
Sure, I support hearings, and in particular I support some hearings that are of a regional nature.
Sorry, Councillor Walker, could you speak up please? You're very low.
Certainly, can you hear me better?
Yes, much better.
Okay, so I certainly support hearings. I support hearings that are of a regional nature. I wouldn't have thought there was much difficulty at all having those hearings in the town hall, and people can participate online. By all means, if there are also hearings in the north, south, east and west that are focused on regional issues, that's fine. We've done that in the past. I really see little issue about organising such hearings events, because we've done it many times in the past, and I would have thought that the easiest hearings meetings to organise would be the ones in the town hall where we've got the technology. As much and all as people might not be able to get there, we're set up for doing things remotely now. People could always attend another venue to engage remotely if they can't do it on their own device. Going back to my point, if ever there was a time to confront regional issues across Auckland and have some hearings around that, that time is now. Thank you.
Councillor Williamson, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to repeat what I said at the council meeting the other day, and I said it was so well received, I'll just say it again. If any Minister of Finance was trying to prepare a budget and had to in any way go and consult with the broadest community, he'd never, or she would never get a budget done. This is a conflicting issue where you've got to try and work within incredible constraints about what will give you a budget, and to be able to say, well, we're going to give expectations to everybody that they can come along and say what they want and they will be listened to. Those two worlds collide, and you'll never get a resolution. Now, some of you, when you responded to me the other day, said, oh, well, this is local government and we should be listening to local people. Well, Grant Robertson could argue, well, I should be listening to the entire country, since it affects everybody, what I'm doing as a central government vote. I know we're compelled under the law to have to go out and consult. I understand that, and therefore we should. But I have to say, creating expectations that we'll do it an elaborate process and everything that people say will be listened to and incorporated in the final budget will create very angry public, because it cannot be incorporated or you'll never bring a budget together. And I ask you to think again. In fact, those of you who are aligned to a Labour Party, please have a chat to Grant Robertson and ask him how he would ever think about preparing a budget with such incredible contestable pressures the whole time about dropping this, lifting that and so on, and then he had to then go and consult. They do not even consult their own caucus, and they don't even consult their own ministers, and that is for all political parties.
And so I am very, very concerned about trying to say, let's go and create an enormous consultation process and create expectations that we'll be listening to everything and we will be incorporating them in our decisions.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think a lot has been said, but you do need to understand that this has been quite a controversial matter over a number of years, and the issue of hearings actually came up before the floods and all of the drama that we've seen in Auckland. It came up before Christmas. So in terms of consistency, I just see that these proposed hearings are going to be in addition to the other forms of consultation, and I'd like to think that people can support it. Thank you.
Councillor Simpson, Deputy Mayor Simpson, sorry.
Your Worship, just before I speak, I just would ask Sandra, there's some questions in the sidebar I am keen to know the answers for before I speak again. Can someone please deal with that? So Councillor Sayers has said, can hearings as proposed by Councillor Bartley be conducted via Teams or another online channel? Kenneth?
So through the chair, councillor, we would need to look into that to ensure that it's feasible.
Okay, and Councillor Bartley, did you want to change your amendment?
Yeah, because I can hear what everybody's saying, that the staff are under pressure. So yeah, I understand that. So that's why I was looking at what Councillor Dalton was talking about regarding LTP. I just think that how we do it doesn't allow diverse communities to be heard seriously. That's what I think. That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm not trying to encourage more of our, that the demographic that always turns up to our hearings. I'm trying to get it so that diverse communities are heard seriously.
Okay. Your Worship, can you see what's going on in the chat bar? Because Councillor Newman has now said he has indicated he will follow Councillor Bartley's approach.
What I've indicated to Councillor Bartley, and I don't have a speaking slot at the moment, and so this is a bit out of standing order, irregular. But I mean, I support the inclusion of hearing. If it's going to lapse because the mover is going to kick this off to the 10-year plan, then that's. I've said I'll go along with her on it, but there will need to be a hearings resolution addressed as part of our forward consultation of the budgets. That is an expectation that a number of us have. We've tried for some time now to get it. I don't want us to continue to have annual plan and budget rounds without it. It needs to be in addition to what we do with Have Your Say.
Your Worship, while I've got the floor, I will just ask one final question before and that's to Kenneth. Kenneth, can you just reiterate your answer to me? When I asked you, are hearings already included as part of the communications and engagement process?
So hearings are included as a style of the Have Your Say events. So there's not formal procedures, but we have styled or we have cultivated the approach of the Have Your Say events so it's hearing style and people can speak. One of the advantages or benefits of that is that others in the community can hear the different views that others might have. But we also have politicians present at those events to listen and consider those views as well.
So we can vote for the amendment, noting that we already have a hearings process plan in place, albeit more locally. Would that be correct?
Yes, it's a hearing style event. If we're talking about the rigid procedures that we would normally follow for a hearing, it's based on that in principle.
Right. So my compromise, Your Worship, through you, looking at the amendment, is actually we can leave it as it is because actually we're already doing it. We already have the plan in place. And then I think we look potentially at the LTP, as Councillor Bartley and Councillor Newman has mentioned. Thank you.
Councillor Ferry, you haven't spoken yet, so I'll listen to you, please.
Thank you. I hope it's worth your time. I think what I'm hearing here in terms of certainly Councillor Bartley's key motivation is around helping to get as many different diverse community groups and individuals as possible into what we hear as the governing body members. And I'm wondering if some of the way forward here in acknowledging what we've just clarified through the Deputy Mayor is for us to work really closely with our local boards around their local Have Your Say events. On acknowledging Councillor Baker's points about his experience on local boards, mine are similar. When we held formal hearings, we got very few people who wanted to participate. I think one year we had one submission, and that was from actually a member of a different local board. Some people might remember that round. But when we held a Have Your Say event for the last local board plan, where we actually got a local Pacifica community group to host it and put it on, we attracted a very different group of people. The shame was that I don't think either of our governing body members were there to hear it, and and that's okay. I'm not going back and criticising that in hindsight, but I think that that's one of the real strengths of those local board-based Have Your Say events is for governing body members to go to those, not just for the award, and that's certainly my intention. So noting the Deputy Mayor's point that we do have hearings as an option in the current process, I wonder if there's some wording to potentially add there about working closely with local boards so that governing body members can attend as many of those local sessions as possible. I don't know if that's helpful. Hopefully it is. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just kind of sum up and let Councillor Bartley finish as the person who proposed this. Things I've noticed, first of all, the point of having a workshop about this is to raise things like that at a workshop rather than night before Christmas. There is a lot of staff time involved in changing things at this stage. The Have Your Say events sound like hearings in a local way, and locally hearings. Someone raised select committees as a good example. Select committees are held in Wellington, and they're designed that way so that you don't get down there to have a say, so that they know full well when they discuss things in the far north that they can have a select committee and not hear a thing. Areas, I know that some people don't like me referring to my previous experience in the far north, but they have a lot of diverse, struggling communities there, and in order to hear from them, they use the local boards, which are called wards or something like that there, but they use them to hold a Have Your Say event, which is very like a hearing in each area. And the local councillors to cover that area are required to attend those. That works very well, and it sounds rather like what Kenneth had in mind, actually. And where we tried to have a central one, everyone came, people just did. We never had more than about 5 or 6 councillors who bother to go to those. And you'd sit there for hours when you could be doing much better things for the community, like fixing up the infrastructure. So I'm certainly not intending to spend a week of my time listening to people in the town hall, but I will be taking note of what we hear from around the regions, and I will expect councillors to show up to their local Have a Says. That's what the expectation is. So, Councillor Bartley, having heard that, would you like to sum up, and if you are going to amend your thing, make it clear so we'll know what we're going to have a vote on, because we've kind of gone around in a circle now. I'm not even sure what I'm voting on now. Thank you very much, Councillor Bartley. Would you like to sum up, having raised this?
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate that it should have been raised in a workshop. How many times have we said that in governing body meetings? I mean, I think the point has definitely been raised and heard that the way we do this doesn't really, and it hasn't meant that diverse communities have been heard and acted on with what they've presented to us. and that the way we hear from our communities does need to change from hearings, but then also when it has changed from hearings to have your says, it hasn't been taken seriously, because with hearings, it's a formal process where there is report back and, you know, they are formally heard by all of us. So that's what I was trying to get to, is where the governing body get to hear directly from the people that will be affected by these changes. Not trying to add extra work, but I understand that that is what this will do. I am being told to pull it, but we've been through this discussion, so I don't know what that would do to pull it, and whether just to let it go for a vote and just change it to add that bit that Angela said of the LTP. Yeah, okay. God. So just, can you add Angela's bit? Hearings be included as part of the communications process, and what did you say, Angela? Like,
for the LTP, is what she said.
Form part of the discussion for the long-term plan.
Yeah, okay. Because I think the point's been made, and at least this will enable measures to be taken.
Hearings to be investigated.
For it to actually change.
You want to make a point of order?
No, you can just add hearings to be investigated.
So I'll ask Sandra to read out what we think the motion is, because it's somewhat clouded.
Councillors, the amendment currently says that hearings form part of the communications process of the LTP.
Okay, I don't think that's quite
a
process. Angela, can you just do it, please? Like, add that bit.
That hearings form part of the discussion around communications in the upcoming LTP.
Can we say communications and engagement?
Yes, thank you. Thanks.
Are the proponents of that happy with that wording?
Sorry, it's Sandra here. Could I, sorry, I'm working at a different location. Could you just repeat the wording, please?
So you've got it right up to discussion around communications and engagement process. That's right. Are they happy with that?
Just to make it absolutely clear, what do people understand by hearings? Does this mean we all sit at the town hall, or does it mean that we have hearings in each ward? Or do we wait for council staff to advise us what that means? I mean, hearings in each ward, I don't feel bad about. Sitting for days in the town hall, I feel bad about.
Hearings to be investigated. And then it will go on.
Through the chair, we will explore the options and table it.
Thank you, Kenneth. All right, so we've got this as the thing. Or I'm going to, it's been called for a division, for a starter on this one here. So Sandra will carry out the necessary forms of carrying out the division.
Okay, councillors, please answer clearly, yes or no. Councillor Baker.
Yes.
Councillor Bartley.
Yes.
Councillor Dalton.
Yes.
Councillor Darby.
Yes.
Councillor Ferry.
Yes.
Councillor Fletcher.
Yes.
Councillor Foley.
Yes.
Councillor Henderson.
No.
Councillor Hills.
Yes.
IMSB member Kake.
Yes.
Councillor Lee.
Aye.
Councillor Leone.
Aye.
Councillor Newman.
Absolutely yes.
Councillor Sayers.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Simpson.
For.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
IMSB Chair Taipere.
Aye.
Councillor Turner.
Yes.
Councillor Walker.
Yes.
Councillor Watson.
Yes.
Councillor Williamson.
No.
Mayor Brown.
Aye.
Is it no?
It's neither. Abstain.
Abstain. Thank you. So that is carried.
Okay.
So now we move back to.
Now can we move
debate.
back to the, do we have a mover and a seconder for the proposed communications engagement plan? I
Yes,
think we did
we
some
do.
time ago.
Yes.
Did we?
Yes, we did.
Who was that?
Oops. Oh, no, we didn't.
I'm happy to move. Andy here.
Seconder.
I will, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. All those in favour of.
Have they got debate on the
Oh.
substantive now, please?
Oh, debate. Does anyone want to debate that, or we've debated ourselves into the grave? But
comments?
Staff final comments, Mr. Kenneth, please. Poor fellow.
No.
No.
Oh, you're on mute, Kenneth.
Sorry, sometimes some might say I make the most sense when I'm on mute. But anyway, just to be clear, we are committed to engaging all Aucklanders from the 28th of February to the 28th of March through a variety of channels, online, telephone, people can write in on paper, and face-to-face through the Have You Say events as an example. We're also targeting specific communities that we need to hear more from to ensure we get a more representative view of the Aucklanders' concerns or aspirations in relation to the issues we're going out to consult on. In addition, we're focusing on Māori engagement, which I won't unpack, but was in the report. And we have the independent survey being conducted, so we have a statistically representative sample of Aucklanders participating in the process to give us complete answers to all the questions so that we can provide you with quality advice as elected members to inform the decision making that you will progress through to the end of this financial year. Thank you.
Kenneth, are there any final comments from members? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone prepared to say contrary? Carried. Thank you.